All right, welcome back to the Backcountry Rookies podcast. So today I've got Brad Brooks on from Argali, and we're going to be talking about kill kits, meat care kits for you soft at heart. The idea behind the kill kit is that we're talking about essential gear, and I don't think you should be out running around the woods chasing critters and hunting animals without a kill kit or a meat care kit somewhere accessible. I brought Brad on because Argali offers some very good products to build that essential kill kit with. So Brad, real quick, how about we introduce you and we talk a little bit about Argali, and then we'll dive into these kill kits and what you carry and why you carry it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, man. Argali, we're a lightweight hunting gear and equipment company. Also do a lot of content stuff with some brands. And yeah, we make lightweight gear, including game bags, some knives, and got a bunch of other stuff kind of in the works.
Very good. And speaking of ultralight hunting gear, it is ultralight. So what you guys offer with those game bags, and of course, sitting right here, I've got your carbon knife, which this thing is fantastic. I think these are essential and they are super lightweight. So where'd you guys come up with that lightweight concept from? Where does that stem from?
Yeah, I live in Idaho, grew up in the state, and I grew up as sort of in the sort of adventure hunting world back, I think, before Instagram sort of made it what it is today. So
wait, there was hunting before Instagram?
I know, it's hard to believe, right? So as sort of in my youth, backpack hunting, I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know other people were into it, but I started doing it when I was young, just simply to get away from other hunters. And I was, looking back, it's like I just carry these insanely heavy packs, sort of went through that journey that most people go through. And it was miserable. Like I wasn't really having fun. And, I went through this journey of just like realizing that like, man, I just like, there's gotta be a better way to lighten up my pack so this can actually be more enjoyable. And so that led me down, over year after year, trying to figure out how to lighten my pack. And then, from, any number of hunts that I went on, as a gear junkie, started taking a look at what was in my pack and realizing that, I think we can make some of the products I'm using better to meet some of the needs that I found in the field that would make them lighter and more functional. And really that came down to me believing that everything ideally that's in your pack should have at least one use, but ideally more than one use. So how do you create products that meet the needs that they're designed to do, but also have other functions? And that's what led us. Our game bags were our first product. And, really the intent with that is to try and bring some like technical design and that multiple use function to a product that pretty much all of us carry. It's a very simple product with very simple function. But I thought there were things that we could do that would allow it to have multiple functions in the field. And I don't know if I'm getting out ahead of myself here, but we can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be my next question: is what are your multi-functions? Like, how do you see that when you think multi-function for a game bag?
So like our high country pack was the first set of game bags we made, and what I really wanted to do, there's a couple things I wanted to do here. One is like simplify the number of products that people felt like they needed. So like if you look at a lot of the game bag companies out there, I mean, they've got a different set of bags for each animal. Which to me always felt kind of insane. I mean, like a pronghorn, a sheep, a goat, a deer, different body sizes. But I mean, let's be honest, right? Like you don't need a different set of game bags for each animal. So why not be more honest with like, the customers and be like, hey, I'm going to create one set of bag and it's going to work for all of them. And so that was the idea behind the high country pack. I also wanted to be able to fit a boned out elk. So like if you're hunting in the West and you want a boned out elk, like it could fit that, or it could fit bone in quarters for deer sized game. And so that was the sort of the idea behind this. And in terms of like technical design, we use like a nylon blend material. So nylon spent a lot of time sort of testing and looking at different specs on material. Nylon is known for its sort of durability. The challenge with nylon is breathability. So in every fabric, I don't care if it's your t-shirt or your sleeping bag or whatever, right? Like every fabric has woven fabric has a weave of vertical and horizontal fibers. And no two fabrics are created the same. So if somebody says like, this is, X brand says we make, this weave of cotton fabric or nylon fabric, and another brand makes the same weave, the reality is they're not going to be exactly the same. And the challenge with the game bag is finding a nylon material that has, I'm going to geek out on fabric for you for a second.
Sure.
The right weave, the tighter the weave, the more durable the fabric is, but the less breathable it is. So with game bags, you don't want a super tight material, right? So we looked at ripstop materials and different weaves of fabric. And in our testing, while ripstop is much less likely to get torn, the reality is it just doesn't breathe very well. And we couldn't find one that really worked really well for us. So the fabric we settled on is kind of that right balance of durability and breathability. So the looser the weave, the less durable. The tighter the weave, the more durable and less breathable. So it's about balance, right? And so the fabric we use, I think, fits that bill of being, breathable enough to allow your meat to breathe, especially, it's really important in the early season and the archery season, but also durable. So the other thing is like, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, a lot of people are always worried about bacteria and bugs and things, being able to introduce bacteria to your meat through the fiber. So can you talk about that a little bit too, and how that weave would withstand that?
Yeah, so like flies can't get access to your meat through this bag. They can't blow eggs through the material. It's tight enough that they can't do that. The challenge with some of the less expensive sort of cheesecloth bags, which I've used for years, is, you can get a little snag on those things. Any little hole, flies will find eventually, especially during the warm months, right? And that will allow, flies to lay eggs on your meat. Bacterial growth is an interesting thing. So I know, I'm going to be honest with you, like the idea of an antimicrobial bag, I think is I would love to see the science behind it, because as far as I can tell, that's just marketing lingo. The best thing you can do to prevent bacterial growth on your meat is to let it air out. That's the simplest equation. You get that. What you want to do with meat care is allow a rind to form around your meat. And that requires airflow, like full stop, right? And so, again, especially during archery season when there are a lot of flies out, you need a bag that keeps flies off and allows your meat to dry out, period. And that's the best way you can prevent bacterial growth. The idea of the bag providing some like antimicrobial function, I don't try to be really like polite about this, but I don't think that's accurate. And in my experience, airflow is much more important than anything else. So, and I'll say just a couple features on the construction of the bag too. So like one thing we use that I think is really important. So when it comes to multifunction, so the paracord used on most game bags is typically kind of a cotton, sort of inexpensive lace. What we use is this 275 pound, 2.4 mil paracord. It's a super high quality paracord. And I intentionally use that because you can use this stuff. If you're an archery hunter, you can use this for a D loop on your bow. You can fix your limb driven rest with this in the field if you need to. I've had guys use this to fix broken boot laces. I had a guy tie an elk, solo hunter tie an elk head to a tree to hold his elk up on the mountain so he could gut it, or clean it out, butcher it, tie your tent down, whatever. So like this paracord, which is in all of our game bags and in the stuff sack itself, is designed so you can actually use it for any number of gear repairs in the field, whatever that may be. It's also reflective. So like, we have a reflective logo on the game bag. So like one of the things that always drove me nuts is like, oftentimes I end up hauling meat in the dark, in the early morning light. And, not being able, that little bit of reflective material just makes such a huge difference in being able to find that meat in the dark with your headlamp. Even if you've got a GPS, sometimes it's hard to find, especially in like a snowstorm. So reflective materials on the bags, seamless bottom. The bottom seam is typically the highest failure point on any game bag. We don't have a seam on the bottom of our bags. And then we also put these orange tabs on the game bags, which I'll kind of zoom in on here. These orange tabs really are meant for when you're hunting alone. So like one of the things is if you've ever tried to like hunt it alone and killed an elk by yourself, or even a deer, frankly, but elk for sure, and tried to hoist and hang an elk quarter by yourself, like it's a bit of a wrestling match to get that elk quarter up into a tree if you're going to be trying to hang it. The idea with these tabs is you could use anything, any piece of webbing or paracord, run it through the top two tabs, throw that over a branch, and then you could hoist it up and then tie off the paracord. So it just makes it a lot easier to hang paracord. And again, this is stuff, design features that, that came from me and just my, experience in kind of struggling with a few things. One of those is trying to figure out how to hang quarters when you're by yourself, which is not easy.
So instead of just solely using the drawstring as your load bearing weight, you're saying use those two tabs on the side.
I think so. So two things. It's a lot easier to use the drawstring. So if you have a stub of a tree down low, so we give you two options. So if let's say you've got a tree stub down low that you want to use this for, totally fine. In fact, that's the easiest way to do it. You can just tie a little overhand knot like I just did there, hang that on the stub, a little branch sticking out. Sometimes you don't have that down low, right? So sometimes all you've got is a high branch, depending on circumstances and where you're at. So that's where the two orange tabs come in handy, is when you've got a high branch, or you're in bear country and you need to hang it up high just because bears are around.
Yeah. Cool. Very nice. Yeah. They seem like they're super good construction, and I like that bottomless, no seam on the bottom. I really like that.
Yeah. Let's see. So there's that. The other thing I did is the stuff sack, man. So again, multiple use. So the stuff sacks that our bags come in, it's actually the same material we make our game bags out of. It's just in different color. I wanted these are handy little ditty sacks. So one of the things that kind of an unintended consequence, but one of the things that people tell me all the time is like, they use these little ditty sacks for gear organization. So we made it so you could fit, I designed it so you could fit our knife, a set of paracord, a set of gloves, kind of everything, kind of the bare essentials for a kill kit in these things, but both for our MOB pack, which is our large game meat on bone set. So this is like elk meat on bone set. These things can hold everything you need. So you don't have to have like a separate stuff sack to put all your game bags in, as well as your knife and whatever else you want in your kill kit. You can fit it all in the stuff sack that comes with our game bags. So again, it eliminates something else from your pack. So again, everything about our kill kits and our game bags, there's at least some thought into it on our end. Whether or not people find it useful, open question, but at least we put some thought into it.
Yeah. Well, you find it useful, and that's what's important, right? That the product that you made was made based on the trials that you put yourself through to get there. So
sure.
Next, I wanted to talk about the carbon knife, because this thing is crazy nice.
Yeah.
I assume that the idea for this came from the need for this and that going lighter weight, but go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about the carbon. It's the materials that it's made of also.
Yeah, you bet. So again, I've used lots of replaceable blade knives and fixed blade knives out there, and one of the I've had some issues with breaking off some of the scalpel blade knives, like in animals, with my headlamp on, and I've been terrified about like trying to find that razor blade stuck in the meat or the cavity, like that I'm just gonna like slice myself open. I've also had some buddies, with some of those super sharp razor blade knives, like stick themselves and almost bleed out. So there's some danger element in some of those things. So, but it also occurred to me as like a minimalist that, the reason I was carrying a razor blade knife is because I could carry 2 extra blades and not have to carry a knife sharpener and deal with sharpening a knife. And at some point, I was just like, there's got to be a way to create a fixed blade knife that I could have confidence could cut up an entire elk from tip to tail, bone it, debone the meat, skin it, everything, without having to carry like a backup fixed blade knife just in case, or a sharpener if I didn't want to. And that was really that was my goal. That was what I set out to do. And so that was, the carbon knife is the result of that. So everything about the blade. So it's, we made it from, the steel is really the meat and potatoes of it, right? And that was the biggest crux of it, like which steel to use. And so we use what's called S35 VN steel. And S35 is considered, they call it a super steel, for whatever that's worth. And really what that means is it's a steel that's it's on the harder end of the HRC scale. If you're folks are familiar with sort of the steel scale. So like, let me back up and say, like, when it comes to steels out there, especially any steel you use, there is a spectrum. And on that spectrum, steel is from soft to hard. And it's not that any one steel is quote unquote better than the other, but there are trade-offs along that scale. So on the super soft scale, super easy to sharpen. So like anybody that has any low level experience can really sharpen that thing really well. The trade-off is it won't hold an edge very long at all. So you're gonna have to sharpen all the time. On the harder end of the scale, very difficult to sharpen, but it'll hold an edge for a really long time. So, you might get a blade that'll keep an edge for a long time, but you won't be able to resharpen it unless you have like a belt sander or you're a professional sharpener. You've got like a professional sharpening kit, because it's just very difficult. It takes a long time. So that's the spectrum. And in that range, there's all sorts of steels, right? And so when we tested our steels, the S35 for me kind of fit the bill of being on the harder end. So it'll hold an edge for a really long time, but it's not so hard that you can't field sharpen it and field hone it. So that's why we chose this specific steel. It's an expensive steel, but it's a really good, high quality steel. And that's why we guarantee the knife for life. So that's the steel. We use a 20-degree bevel angle for the blade. I felt like that was kind of the best all around angle in terms of being razor sharp out of the box, but also being durable. The sharper you make that edge on your knife, the easier it is to dull. So there's kind of a sweet spot in that 18, I'd say like 17 to 20 degree. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience from my field use, but that 17 to 20 degree angle is kind of the sweet spot. I feel like 20 is plenty sharp. And in fact, there are some folks have done some tests on a number of knives. Our knife, this hasn't been published yet, but our knife actually measured sharper than a Havalon razor blade out of the box. So I'm really excited for that test, independent test, to come out.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the shape of the blade. So the shape of the blade is really intended to be kind of a jack of all trades. So you'll notice there's kind of a slight curvature from tip to tail there. And that really is designed. So if you turn it upside down, you kind of see it on camera here. But if you're kind of zip hides, that slight curvature, make sure the tip of your blade doesn't stick into the meat as you're zipping it. So you're not like allows for a little bit smoother zipping. The thing that most people notice too is, I should have said this earlier, but we wanted to create a knife that had the weight of a skeletonized knife, but the feel of a full handled knife.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I don't like about skeletonized knives, some people don't mind it, again, personal preference, is that when my hands are cold or I've been working on an animal a long time, they tend to do it called like flipping. They'll kind of like roll one side or the other. And you have to like really bear down on them to get them to like stay straight as you're reefing on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted something that I could have like easily have control over when my hands were wet and cold with blood. And this textured G10 material was sort of our unique handle style there. It does a really good job. Like when you put it in your hand, it's the first thing most people notice. They put it in their hand, they're like, I have like full control of this handle.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing that everybody comments on as soon as they touch it. So we did make the handles removable, so you can cut a little bit of weight if you want to. But I like the handles on there personally. It's 1.8 ounces for this knife. And you're looking at about 7.5 inches total for this blade. The other thing, we use a modified drop point on this style. So you have kind of that long, slender blade there, which is really kind of designed to do everything you would need to do if you're deboning an animal. So it's really easy to get behind, especially with the jimpings. So as you're working back straps, this can work really easily around that vertebra and rib cage area. You can get down in and pop joints out. So especially for like hindquarters, it's easy to work around the ball joint. So you just have like really good control both in hand. It's also fairly nimble and flexible for working around tight spots, bones and joints and whatnot. So anyways, that's a really long geeky explanation for our knife.
I think it's a great explanation. So a couple things you always see, not always, but a lot of the time you see when people, they really want a skeletonized knife, and then they end up wrapping the handle with 550 cord or something that gets covered in blood and it gets all nasty and it's heavier. And so I like, and G10 is super light. So these scales are really, really nice. Plus, if you get it really bloody, you can remove the handles and you can clean it thoroughly so that you don't end up getting corrosion or, anything underneath those scales. I think that's really cool. And then I was talking to you about this the other day, that I like the shape of that blade. Maybe I got it in there. So that, so the other day I was doing a Coues deer quarter, which for those of you that know a Coues deer, they're about the size of a cat, right? They're teeny, they're little, they're not very big at all. But just the shape of the belly of the blade, I was able to take those long cuts on the bigger shoulder pieces of meat, and it cuts them quick, right? Because it's a nice long stroke. And then on some of those really detailed little intricate spots, that point is sharp enough that, man, you can really get in there. Like it's kind of a do all knife, like you said. You can really get, it covers everything that you need. I really like the shape of that blade. And the jimping up front is awesome. I like that too. I always look for that. So cool. Very cool. So that's two essential pieces to a kill kit, right? When you're throwing this thing in your pack, you're looking for game bags and a knife. And that's two things that you're absolutely going to need in that kill kit. A lot of guys will throw extra little things in their kill kit. And as we kind of wind this thing down and we wrap it up, I wanted to touch on what are some of those little extras that you throw in your kill kit.
So we again we sell this kit, but here's all I don't carry a lot, but one thing I do carry is, so this is some extra 2.4 mil paracord, so just for hanging quarters. I tend to, the way I butcher my animals is I usually will take the quarters off, all four quarters, and hang them and the game bags. So I like to have some extra paracord just in case I need to hang quarters. And then the only other thing in my kit is our gloves. And I was telling you about this earlier, but these are 8mm textured nitrile gloves. And so these things are burly. I've used, I don't know if anybody who's bought some of the cheap, they're usually like blue gloves. Yeah, those things. I used to pack like 10 pairs of those things, because especially if I was going to be working on a couple animals, because I break so many of the fingers or cut them. I only carry one pair of these gloves because they're so burly, and I can reuse these things. I don't think I ever tore a single pair of these last year, and working on, probably like 10 animals or so between me and my buddies. They're just really nice. So like one pair of those gloves, some paracord, a knife, and a set of game bags, and that's all I carry with me in my kill kit.
That's pretty much mine too. I carry that same paracord. I bought a ton of this stuff off of wherever, or Amazon. You guys may
Yep.
sell it too individually, but I like this stuff too. So being in the Army, I've always carried that big fat 550 cord, and when I discovered this stuff, it's like probably a quarter of the weight, and you don't lose a lot of tension strength on it. So this stuff is really, really nice to have. I do the
Yeah.
flagging tape, which honestly I could probably get rid of now that I have reflective bags, right? Um, and a trash bag. I just always throw a trash bag in there too, just to put meat on or whatever if it's dirty. And that's, I mean, kill kits are pretty simple. I think a lot of times people overthink them. They are essential. You're going to need it. You're going to need a way, whether it, I mean, this is the way to go, right? Is to have a good quality game bag and a good quality knife, but you're going to need something to take care of the meat when you're in the field. So however you get it
Yeah.
done is how you get it done. I just wanted to have you on to talk about the game bags and the knife to give people an idea of what quality products look like in a game or in a kill kit. And then a couple of those essential little extra things that might come in very handy. Gloves
Yeah.
are really, really handy because you end up getting pretty boogered up. You get all covered in hair and blood and everything. So gloves are nice.
Yeah. I know
Um,
some guys like a blanket to lay meat on. I've just never needed one. I mean, sometimes they're handy, but I just never found it to be like, for me, something that was a must-have item. But I will say you're right. So the trash bag is a really good reminder. So sometimes, especially for backpack hunts, I will throw like a 13-gallon unscented trash bag in,
mhm.
mostly because if I stuff meat in my pack, so I might stuff my pack full of meat and then I might put it in a trash bag just for transporting it, like let's say from the kill site to where I'm going to hang it or to my base camp or to the truck.
Hmm.
Because I might have like clothes and other stuff in there that I don't want to get like drenched in blood, and that's super handy. That's a good reminder too.
Yeah, so that's kind of you talk about dual purpose. This is a big lawn care, like a big trash
Okay.
bag, and it's I don't always carry wet weather clothes, right? A lot of times, I typically, if I'm hunting, it's drier climates, but you might get hammered by a rainstorm, and you can actually, if in a pinch, you can climb up
Yeah.
underneath this. I could pull that out of my kill kit. If I wanted to, I could put a couple armholes in it, and I could put that thing on and have it as a rain jacket, and then I have something. So it's kind of always there, and I always know that I have it in a pinch if I need it, and it saves me sometimes carrying a big pack of rain clothes, right? Pants and jacket or something. So dual purpose.
Dual
Um,
purpose.
I think that's about all I got. I really quick, I wanted to. So Brad's going to come back on the show again here. I don't know, a couple months, and we're going to talk a little bit more about mule deer hunting. But why don't you really quick give kind of a plug for your Argali season 1 YouTube series that
Oh
you guys have going right now, and then the Brooks Brothers series too that you're doing.
yeah. Thanks for that. And I'm also speaking of mule deer. I drew a Nevada tag this year for archery mule deer. So I have mule deer on the brain right now. That's all I
I
can think
bet you do.
about. I am yeah. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a mule deer junkie. Um, yeah. So we this last we're most a lot of people know us through our content, our filmmaking content. This last 2019, we spent the whole year filming and putting out a season of content, both anywhere from turkey hunting to caribou in Alaska to deer and elk in Idaho, and a couple and some archery mule deer stuff. So you can find that on YouTube on our Argali YouTube page, and I hope you enjoy it. We're in the middle of putting out our sort of what I consider one of our keystone content pieces right now, and it's about me and my two brothers, and it's just sort of our relationship with each other. And sort of the through line is we're on a deer and an elk hunt with some llamas. So check it out on our YouTube page, and if you don't like it, you can leave a comment. But if you like it, you can also leave a comment.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good series. I like the way that you guys sort of seclude it, individually, and you sort of give each other the opportunity to talk about the two other brothers, so there's some
Yeah.
little family insight there that's kind of fun to watch. And I don't know, it just kind of gives it that personal aspect, where to me, it just feels like you're sort of part of the hunt, right? You're almost sitting there having those
Yeah.
conversations. It's really cool. And then llamas are becoming a really big thing. So seeing those and seeing people hunt with those is pretty neat. So
Yeah.
I
No,
like
it's
the series. So
okay. Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. We try and make it personal and relatable and about something more than just the hunt. So I feel like that's one of the things I like about this particular series. You get anybody who has siblings, I've heard this, I got a lot of feedback on this, like you can relate to the connection. It's not just about brothers, sisters, and, family in general is such an important part of hunting for a lot of people and for me. And so hopefully the series gives people a little bit of like, you can relate to it on a family level
hmm
as well. And yeah, we did do those interviews. That was one of the ideas we had. My business partner, Jason, and I, he's the magician behind the camera, to be honest with you. A lot of people don't know that, but Jason's amazing. And we intentionally did interviews. And if you watch the series, you'll see what we're talking about. But we asked a set of questions for each of us, and I didn't know what their answers were until we started editing, but it was intentional so we could get sort of some like candid audio about each other. And honestly, I've learned a lot about my two brothers who I'm close with from watching the series and from making the series, stuff I
yeah,
didn't know about them. It's been fun.
that sounds like it's super fun. That's good. Well, definitely, I invite people, like Brad said, it's on their Argali channel. To keep an eye on our Instagram stories. We usually, when a new one comes out, we throw a story with a swipe up on there to go watch it. Um, check it out. The whole series is good. It's all called season one. I'm hoping there's going to be a season two coming out
Yep,
next
absolutely.
year. So,
Yep.
Nevada mule deer hunt, right? There's going to have to be something on that.
Adam Wilder will be in there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Congratulations. You must have just found that out. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago?
2 days ago. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'm,
that's
I'm
right.
on, man. I'm on like, I'm so, yeah, I'm very excited about that. I have
Have
two
you
big
hunted
mule
there
deer hunts.
before?
No, nope, not in this. Nope. This is my first time in Nevada.
Cool.
Hunted a lot of places, but not in Nevada. So I'm also, yeah, we've got lots of fun stuff coming this year, but yeah, I'm
Good.
most excited about that one.
Good. 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 All right. Well, when we do the mule deer show, we'll try to roll up some of that and kind of what's the plan for Argali this year and what do you guys have going on. And um, I want to try to do that a little bit closer to season so that we get people, more like not focused on kill kits and things like that. I really do want to focus on tactics, and techniques of mule deer hunting and sort of your plan and prep and stuff like that. So, and going into a new area too, we'll cover some of that. So you're going into a place you've never hunted before. So how do you prep for that? Anyway, Brad, I really appreciate you coming on. What's all your Instagram, social media handles, stuff? How do people find you? Where do people
Yeah,
find
yeah,
these
for
game
sure.
bags and the knife and all of that?
Yeah, yeah. So Instagram, social media, Argali_official, and then our website is just argalioutdoors.com. So pretty simple.
Very simple to find. All right, I'll link all that stuff in the show notes so it's all in there. And Brad, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.